All right, it is 1 o'clock. Welcome back if you're joining us for the second time. If this is your first time seeing virtual conservation live, then welcome. My name is Ben Wegleitner. I work for the Tippecanoe County Partnership for Water Quality. I think you all know Monica.
Hey everybody. Wish I could see you. I miss you.
We are doing this virtual presentation as a replacement for the Conservation Field Day, which usually happens live at Martell Forest, where you get to learn from natural resource specialists from Tippecanoe County and from across the state. We are happy to have you. First, a couple of ground rules. Please only use the chat or the Q&A box for answering questions that our presenter presents to you, or to ask questions of our presenter so that we can get those questions to her so that she can answer your questions. Please do not use it to chat with each other. Only use the chat box if you're either answering or asking a question. Thank you. Without further ado, I want to introduce Shelby Royal. Shelby is the, let's see if I can get this right, Shelby, the Hellbender Husbandry Coordinator, and I'll let you explain what that means. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Ben and Monica. So hi everybody, like you said, my name is Shelby Royal and I am the Hellbender Husbandry Coordinator here at Purdue University. So I do quite a few different things here. I help with the undergraduate and graduate research projects that go on out at ARL, as well as help to raise and release some of the hellbenders that we have here in captivity. So how we do that is we have actually 3 different rooms that we take our hellbenders on. So I'll show you the first room here real quick. So here's what is going to be called our rearing room. So this is where we actually collect eggs and help to get those eggs hatched and into, they'll stay in this room for about 1 to 2 years after hatching. And then after that, they will get to go to our raceway room. Now what's cool about this here is they will be in this room for another 2 to 3 years, and this actually helps them to get acclimated for stream-like conditions. So they'll have a little bit of gravel in there. They'll have some will have current and some will have just regular water. And so this kind of gives us a chance to test whether the current ones can survive better compared to the unconditioned ones. And then after they are done in here, before they get ready for release, we have our big raceway. Now this is really cool because unfortunately it's turned now, otherwise you wouldn't be able to hear me. But we have the closest thing to a stream in our building. So this actually has fast moving current. This has a large gravel bed, if you can see in there. And then we also have these huts here, which is for the juveniles that are in here. And I'll show you some live ones here in a moment. But we are actually testing right now to see whether or not juveniles have a hut preference. So basically the volume of the hut can depend greatly on survival for them. So the coolest thing, if you don't know, the hellbender is the North America's largest salamander. So their closest relative is going to be the Chinese giant salamander. So they can grow anywhere between 2 to 2.5 feet tall. So they get quite large actually. And so with that, they are a great indicator species. And what that means is basically they are super particular about their water quality. So not only do they have to have the fast moving currents, but they also have to have really clean water. So one of the biggest issues that we face when having hellbender conservation is whether water quality is good enough for our hellbenders. One of the largest things that we see as a difficult situation with trying to release our hellbenders is, 1, is there any pesticides or fungicides that are actually in the water? And 2, is sedimentation and erosion causing issues that would reduce habitat for our hellbenders? So we actually see quite a bit that sedimentation and erosion limits the rivers that we can release. So in Indiana, there's only one river. It's in southern Indiana called the Blue River that we can actually release the hellbenders at because it has the excellent water quality. It's got the fast moving current that we want, and it also has a large enough rocks that allows the hellbenders to hide in. So hellbenders are really cool. You see, I got a few guys over here. So hellbenders are neat because they actually have different types of adaptations to help them. Let's see if there's anybody. Oh, there's one guy right there. So if you can see there, amphibians are really neat because they actually breathe through their skin. So this is why water quality is so important, especially for our hellbenders. On the sides there, you can see their little lasagna slides, maybe. There we go. So they actually have lateral folds, what helps them to bring in more oxygen. We do see often that one of the other big issues that streams have is they don't have enough dissolved oxygen in the water. So with dissolved oxygen can lead to different kinds of complications like gas bubble disease and other complications as well. So, yeah. There we go.
Whoa.
So these guys are actually our 5-year-old hellbenders. So they are getting ready to be released this July. So we actually will do what is called a soft release for them. So basically what we'll do is we will get them to the river that we are going to try and release them at. They will be placed in basically 2 twin-size mattress cages, and they'll get placed in those cages so that they can adapt to their new river streams. And then after about 2 or 3 days, we will see how they're doing, and then we'll do the grand release after that. So these guys are part of our project right now for the huts, but in July, they'll get ready to actually be released into the new rivers. So
cool. Shelby, can I throw some questions at you?
Yeah, of course.
I know that you get this one a lot, so we'll cover this one very first. How did hellbenders get their name?
So it's actually not really known why they're called the hellbenders. There's stipulations that basically when we first colonized in this area, they saw these coming out of the streams and they thought that it was something out of hell that came from the rivers. So that's one of the reasons we think that they're called a hellbender.
But they don't
otherwise
bite people or anything, do they? They're just big and frightening.
So they do bite.
Oh.
They actually do have small, sharp little teeth. So their main diet is crayfish. So the sharp teeth actually help to break through the shellfish.
Okay. What is the lifespan of a hellbender? How long does it live?
So depending on, all the water quality and everything like that, we see typically between 20 and 30 years.
Wow.
So
wow. And
I believe,
how long do they grow? Like, how big are they?
So they grow between 2 and 2.5 feet.
Okay.
The largest one we found was 279 grams. So he's a pretty big guy.
How many eggs do they lay?
They actually lay a lot. So despite they are listed endangered in every state that they are found in, their clutches range between 100 to 200 eggs each. The males actually take care of the eggs. So basically during the breeding season, females will go and look for males. They will mate with them, and then they'll deposit their eggs, and then the male kicks the female out to raise the males.
Okay, you can keep going. Sorry, we'll interrupt you again with more questions later, but we didn't mean to throw you off.
No, you're good. So so these guys, they got a lot of different kind of adaptations. So they, like I said, the lasagna slides are what help them to get more oxygen. they actually are pretty slimy little guys. So they are great at escaping predators. So one of the biggest issues that we see with predators is usually when they are younger. So between eggs to about 2 to 3 years old, they get predated on by bigger fish. The den masters, which are the males that take care of the eggs, will actually cannibalize on their eggs at some points. And they can actually get eaten by other hellbenders as well, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
So they also, we've seen because of sedimentation and everything like that, that hellbenders get closer to the streams and like the stream banks. And when we see that, they get predated on by birds and raccoons and different things like that. So that is one thing that's causing a lot of the decline, is that they get eaten by other species and themselves sometimes.
Wow.
So, but.
How many do you currently have at Purdue?
So we currently have 102.
Wow. That's a lot.
Do you currently have any eggs?
We don't have any eggs. I do have a few of the 2019 that hatched over in October. They're in the rearing room, so unfortunately, the moment I go in that room, I lose connection, so I can't bring you in there to show you. So, but they're really cool. They're about maybe 5 centimeters long, about 3 to 4 grams. So it's pretty cool to see how they go from so small to such large salamanders.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about the habitat that they need, both about the water quality and why you have rocks in the raceway and what that kind of mimics in their natural environment?
Yeah, absolutely. So our raceway is the closest thing that we have for a stream for them. So they really rely on, especially like these large cobble here and the smaller cobble that's over there. They really rely on that to hide. So they require really large boulders to hide in, to, 1, protect their eggs, and 2, to protect themselves. But so we try to get them acclimated as close to the river stream as possible. The larger the cobble, the kind of easier it is for them to grasp on and escape, basically. So they love to hide underneath all this, and this helps them protect from fish trying to predate on them and everything else. So with water quality, they like to see them generally have dissolved oxygen levels of between 90 and 95%. They also have, if you can kind of see here, hi buddy. So basically in here, there's gonna be a little bit of dirt right here that pops up. And that's one of the biggest issues as we face, is that with that sedimentation and erosion that keeps occurring, this dirt will actually fill in the cavities in the gravel, and that limits the amount of space that they can actually hide in. So without all the gravel and the little pockets that they have, they can't hide generally as well if it's been taken over by mud and dirt.
We're getting lots of questions, which is
Yeah,
we'll keep throwing some questions at you.
Yeah, go right ahead.
A big one is, why do the males eat their eggs?
Yeah.
We're seeing that a lot.
A lot of the times what happens is the males are called den masters. So basically what happens is when the male takes over and tries to take care of his eggs, he does not leave that spot. So unless a smaller fish or a crayfish come near him, he doesn't generally go out to look for food. Eventually he just gets hungry and kind of sacrifices some of the eggs from that sense.
Yikes.
So this question, other than themselves, what else do they eat besides crayfish?
So they'll eat earthworms, they will eat smaller minnows, they'll eat bass larvae, any fish fry. They will, shrimp is another good one that they like to try to eat. Anything really that they can swallow whole, basically, because a hellbender has a vacuum sealed mouth. So when they open their mouth, just a big gulp of water comes in. and so they'll swallow it whole that way.
Huh.
So they have gills then that they can sort of flush the water, or do they purely
So,
breathe through their skin and that's all?
so when they are younger, so between ages 1 to 3, they'll have gills, but they'll always reabsorb those gills between years 2 and 3. After that, they do have fully functioning lungs, but they don't use them very well. And so they just breathe through their skin.
Wow. Are they poisonous?
They are not.
And you said that they need very specific water quality. Are hellbenders endangered?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So they're they're state listed in every state. So in Indiana, they're endangered. Ohio, Kentucky, they're endangered as well. In Missouri, they are threatened. So their populations are in severe decline.
Okay. It looked like in one of those images they were grouped up. Do they form groups like that in the wild, or is that just kind of a captivity thing?
So we see it mostly in captivity. They're actually pretty solitary animals, so they don't like to be with others, which is another reason why they kind of like to cannibalistic guys on each other. But we do see it, yeah, we see it an overabundance with when they're younger, that they'll try to group up, and basically what they're trying to do is make themselves look small enough that they're hiding.
Aw. So what colors do they come in?
So really they come in a dark brown to mottled colors. There's a couple of them that we have here that have really neat color and spot patternations that, well, there's one guy, but he's buried underneath the others, but he almost looks orange, which is pretty neat. Here you can kind of see his orange top in there.
Huh.
So we're not really sure why they have different, they have unique patterns. So it's like an identification code for them, but we see, excuse me, sorry. And a lot of times based on the area that they come from, we'll give them their different colorations as well.
Can they live outside the water at all?
So they can live outside the water for a very short time. Like I said, they do have fully functioning lungs, but what happens is when they get out of the water, their skin starts to dry out. And a lot of the times that's not good for amphibians because of all the different dust and different contaminations will stick on their skin. And then that causes future complications for them as well. So
what kind of predators would they have?
So the predators are going to be bigger fish. So bass is the one.
Oh, wow.
Bass love to eat them. Raccoons, other kind of carnivorous birds will try to get them if they're up close to the shoreline. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Somebody wants to know if you've ever been bitten.
No, I've come very close to being bitten, but from what I've heard, it hurts real bad, and I don't want to experience that.
What made you want to work with hellbenders, Shelby?
So actually, it was a really cool opportunity for me. I just graduated from Purdue University last year, actually. And so my old professor reached out to me about this position, and it's a really cool endangered species that you get to work with. They're like little ferrets almost, but in the water. So that's pretty cool just to get to see them and experience that. And so you can't sit there and say, every day at your job, you work with an endangered species. So it's really cool to be able to get that experience. And I mean, their face, and they have cute little toes, and it just makes things a lot easier for me.
Somebody's asking if you can show them one up closer. I don't know if you can get closer or not.
So I'm on my phone. Let me see if I can grab one here real quick.
You guys are so lucky she's going to be able, if she can show it to you.
me set this down real quick. All right. So this is one of our Hellbenders that we have. This guy is 5 years old, and they'll be ready for release here in July.
Wow.
This guy is patiently waiting for me to give him food. So, let's see, I got a more mellow guy. Like, let's see if I can grab him.
Do you feed them live prey?
Yes, we do. So.
Is there ever a fight over it?
Yes, they tend to get a little aggressive sometimes, but generally it's a rare occasion that they actually fight with one another.
Shelby, what makes a Hellbender different from another salamander? Do they have different features to them, or have they evolved to be somewhat different than your, I don't know what a typical salamander is. I don't know what I mean by that, but how are they different from other salamanders?
So actually with Hellbenders get mistaken a lot for mud puppies. And so what we see a lot of the times, the best distinguish between a Hellbender and a mud puppy, both are fully aquatic. The mud puppies, though, are going to continuously have their gills all throughout their life, where the Hellbenders will reabsorb their gills between ages 2 to 3 generally. And their head shape is actually different. So let me see if I can throw this back over. If you can kind of see here, he's got more of a rounder head, where a mud puppy is going to have a triangular shaped head. So, and with other salamanders, some salamanders can be semi-aquatic, and others can actually be terrestrial as well.
Okay. And Hellbenders are fully aquatic.
Yes, they are fully aquatic. They do not come out of the water usually.
Is there
a lot of people asking, can they get trapped in their habitat in the wild? Like
yes, they actually can. We see that problem a lot. We ask that people don't lift the rocks up when they're out exploring, because what happens a lot of times is that rock will be set in the perfect position so that they have an escape route. And when they pick that rock up, maybe a different rock shifts. And then what happens is that rock either falls on the Hellbender and crushes them, or they just can't get out. And then also, Hellbenders do go after live bait. So they will go after fishing lines. And so they'll actually get caught on the fishing line. And like I said earlier, because they have that vacuum sealed mouth, that hook will actually go all the way down to their stomach. So we ask that you just cut the line when you see one and not try to fish it out, because a lot of times you're going to do more damage trying to get the line out than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Do they make any noises?
They'll gasp every now and then. And so like if you pull them out of the water, they'll make like kind of a noise, but otherwise they just sit there and blow bubbles at you.
Aww. So do they have a breeding season?
They do. So a lot of times we see that their breeding season is in October, September area, and then their eggs will actually start hatching in the October, November.
So why don't we have any here up in our area?
So we don't have any up here just because of the climate. So they typically have specific regions that their streams they like to stay in. So we usually see it between 12 and I think 19 degrees Celsius. So where up here, it gets a little too cold in the winter time, and then they can't find the appropriate amount of prey items that they need. And plus, with the Wabash, that's not as great water quality either, so.
Not quite the same as the Blue River.
Right.
So does that make them warm-blooded or cold-blooded?
So they are an amphibian, so they are cold-blooded, so they do require some kind of heat source. So they generally try to get that from the sun through the different season changes.
Go ahead, Monica.
What's their forms of defense?
So their forms of defense is their slime layer. So basically when a prey tries to grab them, they're either one, too slick to get a hold of, or two, the slime, from what I've heard, tastes really, really awful. And so they'll try to spit that back out. Otherwise, they're super good escape artists. They're kind of like cats in a sense that as long as they can get their head through, they can escape. So that's basically what they do, is they'll try to like mangle their bodies around so that they can escape from whatever they're getting stuck under.
Do you recognize any of the Purdue Hellbenders, or have you named any of them?
I've named a couple of them, yes, based on their personalities. So I actually have one who he's on the other side, but I'll try to see if I can. So he's over there. He's got his head sticking out the farthest. He's kind of walking his way over here a little bit. I've named him Benjamin just because I know that he's the only one that will try to come out for food. And so based on his personality and stuff, it's just how I know him, because if you can see, he thinks I have food for him right now, so he's trying to come over here. But
they want to know why you have a lid on that.
So the lid is actually just for the experiment that we're doing. So, hi, Benjamin. What the hut study does is we're trying to look at the volume of each hut to see if the juveniles prefer a larger volume capacity or a smaller one. And so this hut is actually a different size than this hut over here. And so we kind of try to figure out, based on the volume, which the juvenile hellbenders prefer.
That's neat. So do hellbenders have relatives?
So yes, their closest relative is going to be the Chinese salamander. They're kind of in a relationship with the mud puppies, but they have different genetics. And then, yeah, so their closest one would definitely be the Chinese salamander.
And why are they endangered? Are they voices? Have we answered that one already?
Yeah, but I can go ahead and answer it again. So basically, the reason why they're endangered here in Indiana is the population that we have here is an older population. So each breeding season, even though they're laying eggs, the eggs aren't as viable compared to the younger generations. And so we're seeing, unfortunately, a lot of mortalities with the eggs compared to what we see in other states. And then another reason why we see a great decline is because the sedimentation is filling in their rock capacity space. And so they're not having as enough space to hide, and that lets them to get easily predated on because they're looking closer to the shorelines for other food items.
So approximately out of the 200 eggs that they lay, how many are going to survive?
So in the wild, unfortunately, the survival rate is between 5 and 10%. When we rear them here in captivity, we have a 95% success rate. How
long has Purdue been raising them?
Purdue's been raising them since 2009, I believe.
So quite a while. Nice.
Yes.
Are hellbenders nocturnal? Do they work at night, or are they daytime, or?
So they are nocturnal. They actually prefer to, because they're such dark skin, that helps camouflage them a little bit better. So they'll try to go and look for prey items in the night compared. So. I'll just coming out and hanging out now.
Yeah, very social. Okay, we'll do maybe a couple more questions if we have some.
Somebody wants to know what the scientific name is.
It is Cryptobranchius alleganius alleganius.
There you go.
Do you know how long Benjamin has been at Purdue?
Benjamin has been here since he was an egg, so he got hatched in 2015. So he's almost 5 years old.
Okay. Maybe we'll just do one more question for now, and then we'll see how long this one takes. But Griffin asks, how is the coronavirus quarantining affecting your work? Does it change your work schedule, or do the Hellbenders kind of need full-time care all the time?
So my schedule has definitely changed quite a bit. I originally had techs that were out here helping me, but due to the coronavirus, I am now the only one allowed in the area of my facility. So I now officially work 7 days a week. So that means that we do weekend checks, everything like that. But they're actually pretty easy to take care of. So just got to make sure that they're all eating, feeding the way that they're supposed to, and behaving the way they should.
Yeah.
Do they communicate with one another?
I would, besides aggression, I kind of feel like that they would, just by basic body movements. So you can see how some of them wiggle and try to get past one another. But the most common communication is aggression that we see with the Hellbenders. So
Nice.
Okay, I don't see any other new questions in the chat box, so we are going to move on to the question that we're going to ask every one of our presenters this week, and that is, what is one thing that you wish everyone in the world could know about Hellbenders, or about what you do for a living, or anything of your choosing?
So the one thing that I definitely would say is, I know a lot of people don't know about the Hellbenders, or because they're salamanders, especially when they're young, they get confused with other identifications of salamanders. So, but even so, all salamanders and amphibians in general really need the clean water and clean environment and have a good habitat. And that's one thing that we really need to start working on, is because we don't take the best care of our water system sometimes. And so that creates a large impact. And Hellbenders are an indicator species, so they are able to tell you that, you know, if you find one here, this is a great water system. This is clean, it's got fast moving water, it's got the proper rocks that it needs. And that's what a lot of different amphibians need, is those kinds of things. And it's things that we don't really think about, our pesticide use, the way we change our oil in our car or wash our car in general. There's different steps that we can take to help protect not only the Hellbenders, but the large amount of amphibians that are within our country.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone quietly give Shelby a round of applause in your own home. Thank you so much. That was super interesting. I'm sure that we'll be wanting to do this again, because the questions keep on coming in.
And I mean, if you guys have any more questions, you're free to give them my email and I can answer them that way for you guys.
Perfect. That sounds good. Well, I want to let everyone know that we have another one of these tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. We will be looking at tree grafting. So what that means, how we do it, and why we do it. So join us tomorrow, Tuesday, May 12th at 11 a.m. Eastern. If you don't have the Zoom link already, please write down the Zoom link that's on the screen, or feel free to join us on Facebook Live as well. We are streaming these simultaneously on Facebook Live. I don't think we're getting to quite as many questions on Facebook Live. So if you have questions, join us on Zoom. But unless Monica has anything else, I think that's it for day one of Virtual Conservation Live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.